So I decided to make this post a video, getting kind of tired of writing everything. So I'm going to be ranting about this quote that has been going around Tumblr for a while. And so I'll read it to you, and then I'm going to post a screen cap of it in the description of the video so that you can read it yourself. I'm not very good at reading out loud, so we'll see how this works. So the quote goes, "Women's supposed greater sex drives was an argument for their inferiority, but once the assumption became reversed, no one argued that men's lustfulness was a sign of a fundamental irrationality that should preclude them from business and politics. Rather than a handicap, a large sexual appetite was positive once it came to be seen as a characteristic of men. Women, being passionless, supposedly lacked the drive and ambition to succeed. Much like sex, the public realm of work was dirty and distasteful, hardly suitable to a woman's delicate sensibilities." I get so frustrated with things. Obviously today, women's sexuality, women work, sex isn't such a bad thing for women as it was when this was around. But it's just so frustrating to see women throughout history, even when sex roles are completely reversed, be thrust into the disadvantaged one. There are a couple comments on this that says, "A really interesting article about how the perception of sex, especially sex drives, have basically reversed gender roles in the past few hundred years. And no matter what the outcome is, women still end up at home." Funny how that works. Like I said, obviously it's not as big of a deal now as it was, 60 years ago, and then obviously before that. But you just see women always getting the bad end of a deal, especially when it comes to their sexuality. So at first, I talked about this in the first video I posted, first post on this blog, but at first, women were considered to have a larger sex drive, and that was the bad thing. So you couldn't put them out in the world because, I mean, come on, they would ruin our men. They were horrible sexual beings. You can't have that in the world. But once that got switched, and suddenly men had the larger sex drive, now women were expected to stay away from it, to be these submissive people. And it's just, I can't properly express my frustration and dissatisfaction with how these things turn out always against women. And it's just so annoying. It's just, women, I need you to know right now, women like sex just as much as men. It can feel just as good, and it is just as enjoyable. And women don't always do it just for reproductive purposes. And just to see this and see, it incites frustration in me. To see that no matter what women are perceived as, they're always perceived as inferior because of what it is. To more attach this to today's society, obviously women are not as stigmatized for having or not having a sexuality, but it's still considered a bad thing for a woman to have sex. The whole slut association, a girl has sex once and people can call her a slut, and nobody seems to second guess it. But men can have sex as much as they want and nobody cares. I understand it's a little bit of an issue the other way around because men are teased just as much for not having sex as women are called prudes. But at the same time, I do think whereas men are more teased for not having sex, women are harassed more often, and in general more intensely. You're called a prude. I'm sure there have been men who have been called prudes, but it doesn't happen as often. I don't know about in real life, but in the media especially, and media generally relates real life. Women just can't win anyway, whether they have a greater sex drive or less of a sex drive. Nobody seems to care. Women suck. They're inferior. They have issues. Their sexuality makes issues for men. Gets in the way. Women can't do things because, you know, they talk a lot about the whole women can't be president thing because PMSing. And I mean, that's frustrating too. And it doesn't exactly have to do with sexuality, but it definitely does a little bit. But it's just, I can't properly express what I'm feeling because it's just, I'm so frustrated. I think all my pauses and my facial expressions will have to make up for the lack of words that I can come up with to make you fully understand how utterly defeating and frustrating this is. But I just wanted to make a quick video, tell you about that quote, and I hope that you all see how sucky it is that no matter what, women get the worst end of the deal. I don't know.